Hey, what's going down? But we could say what's going up. But I'm making this video because I, since I found this Holy Megillah, the Nazarene Bible of the Essene Way, it's got so many. It's got like 1,000 pages, but it's online, so um, it's got a lot of stuff. So every day I take a look at it and I take the scroll thing down and I just scroll, close my eyes, close and stop. I finally got to the bottom of it and it's got some really good stuff in here. I want to read this because one of the things that I've been talking about with a friend of mine, we're discussing this, is that it's the Bible, but it's the Nazarene Bible. And what it's showing in all the stories is that there were these two different like the Nazarenes story is showing us that really, like, if you haven't watched any of my videos up to this point, uh the ones that are titled like the glory of kings and the revelation of Shiva, um she has a conversation with Solomon in there, King Solomon, telling him that um he's a Nazarene, but he's mixed with the blood of Sargon, the son of Lucifer, and that he needs to um, stop being a worldly king and start being a spiritual king. And he refuses. He turns it down. He tells her to get out of here, or he kills her. Um, and she goes on her way, and then she meets a lady outside the castle or wherever, outside of the palace, and the lady's crying. She got a 4-year-old, and Queen Sheba asks her, "What's the matter? Why are you crying?" And then the lady explains that she got raped by Solomon, that her father and Solomon killed her father, and then and now this kid is Solomon's kid, and now she's dying, and so Sheba takes the kid back to, because the lady dies right there in front of her, and then Sheba takes the little boy back to her people, and so that's it. That's the only, you know, but there's a whole story out there about Queen Sheba and Solomon having a child, but this is a total different point of view in the Nazarene Bible. Yeah, so basically what I'm finding out from reading this version, this Nazarene Bible, I really can't even call it a version. It's a completely different story. Adam and Eve, the fall consisted of them killing a lamb and eating it. So that's completely different. That's a different version. Um, and so I was talking to my friend, and what I'm saying is, it seems like the biggest problem that man is having was concocted by Lucifer and his minions to so that they can inhabit the bodies. They need to lower the light shield, and how you lower the light shield, because natural law is prevents any demonic forces, it says in here, from being able to penetrate us or mislead us. Like, they show you got the devil on one shoulder and God on the right shoulder, and angel of light, angel of darkness, and then the one's whispering, and you go, well, that's how it is, because our shield has been penetrated. Our shields are weak. And what this version, the Nazarene Bible of the Essene Way, is showing, is talking and telling us, is that vegetarianism is was the original uh, way and form of Christianity, because the way that your light shield, your aura, is weakened is by partaking of other animals and killing. That allows you to become a host for possession. And I just did a video that I found from Jordan Maxwell. And in it, they were talking about the Roman Catholic, and they were talking about the exorcism, and they were talking about the birth certificate, and they were talking about possession. And they were saying that's how the Roman Catholic possesses us, through the whole birth certificate, keeping the placenta and everything. And then we know, my friend brought it out, like the way they're using those aborted fetuses and things inside of chocolate and food and lipstick and stuff. And so we're putting um, we're lowering our aura by these little clever devices, so then that we can be possessed, so that we can be owned, so that we can be slaves. And this is how they're doing it. So I just scrolled down today, and I'm gonna make a video real quick, try to read this through. This is in the expanded footnotes of the Megillah towards the back, and it's great. There's a lot of stuff in here. I could have just did videos on this, but this is like the commentary, the Ebonite Clementine text. This is the first time I'm had an opportunity to know anything about them, so I'm excited. So here we go. A true scholar of Christian origins must become familiar with the Ebonite Clementine text. Most Christian pastors and theologians are not familiar with those texts, and of the few Christian leaders who have at least heard or read a reference to the Ebonite text, very few have actually read those texts. This matters because the Clementine text presents the first Christians as vegetarian. The mainstream theologians who have read the Ebonite Clementine text refer to that form of early Christianity as Jewish Christianity. They give it that name because they recognize that it exists prior to the establishment of Roman Christianity. Oh, and consisted of Hebrew and Aramaic speaking people who lived in Israel, Palestine, and Jordan. They also give it that name, Jewish Christianity, because they wish to marginalize it and sweep it under the rug, as it is a embarrassment to mainstream Christianity. It is an embarrassment because it is obviously a more ancient version of Christianity than the Rome version. That modern Christianity is based on, that is, oh wait, is that modern Christianity is based on, okay, that is an embarrassment to mainstream Christianity because the obvious, more ancient form of Christianity, represented by the Ebonites, has some very different teachings, including vegetarianism. More embarrassing even than the realization that the earlier form of Christianity was vegetarian, which implies the modern Christians should be vegetarians, is the fact that the Ebonites considered Paul to be a false apostle who altered the teachings of Christ. Since modern Christianity is based more on the teachings of Paul than on the teachings of Christ, that is quite an embarrassment. Thus, the Christian theologians brand the early Ebonites form of Christianity as Jewish Christianity, implying that it is not pertinent to today's non-Jewish Christians, and do their best to hide the facts that it ever existed. From a Nazarene understanding, Ebonite Christianity is not the earliest and most authentic form of Christianity, but it is indeed earlier and more authentic than Paulianity or Rome Christianity. I will explain. Earliest form of Christianity is the Nazarene religion of the Essene Way because it is the form of Christianity taught by Yeshua. However, almost immediately after his crucifixion, the first schism of Christianity occurred. Yeshua had appointed his wife and co-Messiah Miriam of Magdala, Mary Magdalene, as his successor, but within days of his crucifixion, some of the male disciples who were recent converts from the very patriarchal mainstream Judaism of that day rebelled at the notion of having a female leader. Those who rejected the Magdalene as the leader of their movement were led by Peter, who had at the time founded what we call the Ebonites. In doing so, Peter was banned by the Nazarenes from using Nazarene scriptures. Whoa, which was fine with Peter because he wanted to drop all references to the divine feminine. Peter's teaching became the basis of the Clementine text. The Magdalene, rejected by many of the male followers of Yeshua and pregnant with his unborn son, fled to France with her adopted daughter Sarah. But before she left Israel, she founded the Order of the Blue Rose, leaving the Israel branch under the guidance of loyal disciple named Levi. It is important to note that the male followers of Yeshua who rebelled against having a woman guru were not lifelong Nazarenes. Rather, they were recent converts from the very patriarchal mainstream Judaism, which did not permit women to participate in the priesthood. Peter's Ebonite Christianity was the first schism off of the original Nazarene Christianity. 20 years later, the Ebonites experienced their own schism, as Paul, who never met Jesus, broke off from the Ebonites to form what Nazarenes referred to as Paulianity, the Pauline form of Christianity, whereas Peter's Ebonites preserved Yeshua's teaching on vegetarianism but discarded his teachings on the equality of women and the divine feminine. Paul discarded even the teachings on vegetarianism. Although the Nazarenes considered the Ebonite Clementine text to be the work of the first schism off of original Nazarene Christianity, we are very happy that those texts have been preserved. Why? Because they prove that early pre-Pauline Christianity was vegetarian. When we attempt to convince mainstream scholars that the early Christianity was vegetarian, we can point to the Clementine text as proof. The remainder of this expanded footnote 7 will consist of a brief sharing of some important information preserved in the Ebonite Clementine text. Ooh, the assertion that some portions of the mainstream Torah are not from God. We learn in the Holy Megillah that Yeshua, though he a Nazarene of the Essene way, came as Messiah to the entire world, not just to his own religion. He may well have known that persons such as Peter and Paul would betray key aspects of the Nazarene teachings in order to preach versions of the gospel that would fit the mindsets of certain populations that would otherwise be entirely unprepared to accept any of the Nazarene teachings. It seems that Yeshua knew that Peter would abandon key aspects of the Nazarene gospel in order to preach a version more acceptable to the mainstream Jews of the mainstream Torah. Yeshua likely also knew that Paul would abandon key aspects of the Nazarene gospel in order to preach a version more acceptable to the Roman world. Yeshua also knew that Mary Magdalene, would present the full Nazarene gospel as his authorized co-Messiah and successor to the few that were ready to receive such radical teachings, and that she would see to it that the full gospel was preserved for a future generation ready to receive such advanced teachings. This does not mean that he instructed Peter and Paul to abandon key teachings and present a watered down gospel that their audience could more easily receive. Rather, he was perceptive enough to know that they would do exactly that, and that even their weakness would end up serving the greater good of God, goddesses, God, goddess. In regards to Peter, his form of Ebonite Christianity, while stopping short of replacing the mainstream Torah with the Nazarene Bible, in fact, confront mainstream Judaism with some radical Nazarene teachings. One of the most radical teachings of Peter's Ebonite Christianity, which is Jewish Christianity, is delivered in the following excerpt from the Clementine text, in which Peter asserts that some portions of the Torah are not from God. For the scriptures have had added to them many falsehoods against God. The prophet Moses, having by order of God delivered the true law, it was not long before the written law had added to it certain falsehoods, contrary to the law of God. If therefore some of the scriptures are true and some false, for good reason our masters revealed to us the mystery of his saying, Be ye wise money changers, inasmuch as the scriptures are some true sayings and some spurious. Ooh. Peter explains that be wise money changers was a key allegorical saying of Yeshua, in the same way that a money changer um, person in the ancient marketplace is in charge of exchanging one form of currency for another, must recognize the relative worth and authenticity of various types of money, throwing out the counterfeit. The student of the Torah must recognize the counterfeit teachings and throw them out. Peter concludes. Wherefore, Clement, my spiritual son, beware of those scriptures which portray God as fond of burnt animal fat, bloody animal sacrifice, and war. For if God is portrayed as loving war, what sort of God is that? Okay. So this is saying Peter, he rejected having the Mary of Magdalene as a leader, so he rejected the divine feminine teachings, but he still wasn't okay. Leave my thoughts out of it. We can see why modern Christian scholars who would consider this early form of Christianity to be too radical to embrace. Peter denies the authority of vast sections of the Torah, declaring them to be falsehoods. In regards to Peter's reference to Clement, my spiritual son, now is a good time to explain where we get the term Clementine text. These two texts, one titled the Clementine Homilies and the other titled Recognitions of Clement, were written down by a disciple of Peter named Clement. Clement never met Yeshua. Rather, a few years after the crucifixion, Clement became a disciple of Peter. He followed Peter from town to town, writing down the words and acts of Peter. Early Christian doctrines of vegetarianism. Not only did early Ebonite Christians declare that the Torah teachings on animal sacrifice and warfare were not truly from God, the Ebonites also taught vegetarianism. In the Clementines, Peter declares, therefore I eat only vegetables. Meat eating linked with demonic possession. In the Clementine text, Peter asserts that fallen angels descended to earth and mated with humans. He declares that these fallen angels taught man to kill and eat animals. He furthermore instructs that the killing and eating of animals filled the air with noxious vapors, which caused mankind to fall into denser bodies and lose health and longevity. He teaches that the demons did this on purpose so as to make humans vibrate at a dense enough frequency that disembodied demons can pierce our energy fields and enter our bodies. Then, according to Peter, they attach themselves to your soul and make suggestions, suggesting that you believe are from your own mind. Suggestions that you believe are from your own mind. Peter even teaches that these demons attempted to influence human behavior in such a way as to increase the likelihood of wars, violence, and crime because they feed off of the negative energy. This attempt to influence human behavior, Peter says, includes attempts to influence politics, business, and religion. Fortunately, according to Peter, these demonic entities are unable to live within the body of a human being who does not eat meat, as the vibratory frequency of a vegetarian, which is the natural vibratory frequency of the human being, is too strong to pierce and gain entry and too intense for a demon to live within. Peter even links the demon-inspired fall into meat eating with early human cannibalism. These bastard men taste also flesh, for it was not as a long step to the eating of flesh like their own, having first tasted it in other forms. All of the above is in harmony with what is taught in the Holy Megillah, the Nazarene Bible of the Essene Way. But as stated previously, while Peter's schism away from the Nazarene form of Christianity would preserve the vegetarian doctrine, he completely abandoned other important Nazarene teachings, especially the equality of women and the divine feminine. Equally clearly, in breaking with the Nazarenes over the issue of the divine feminine, Peter agreed to keep silent about the Nazarene scriptures, confining his scriptural arguments to the Torah. This silence on the Nazarene scriptures by mainstream Jews who accepted Yeshua as Messiah but did not fully accept the Nazarene way, which was clearly the case with Peter, was insisted upon by Yeshua and the Nazarene priesthood. Yeshua and the Nazarene priesthood recognized that Yeshua, though a Nazarene, would be recognized as Messiah by many mainstream Jews, and that those Jews would interpret him through their own understanding and scriptures. Both Peter and Paul, though both abandoned key elements of the Nazarene doctrine and were banned from mentioning Nazarene scriptures in public, nevertheless helped a form of Christianity that the masses could accept spread the world over. Now that this is Now that this has occurred and millions of people the world over love and worship Yeshua, the world may be better prepared to receive his second coming. For in truth, even the watered down Christianity of Peter and Paul is a much higher form of religion than that of mainstream Judaism. This is because the mainstream New Testament is much higher vibratory frequency than the mainstream Torah. Thus, the schisms of Peter and Paul were likely predicted by Yeshua, who knew that they would serve a good purpose in the end by elevating the religions of the masses who were not yet ready for the full gospel. It brought me to a scripture in my mind about when some of the disciples came to Yeshua. This is in the King James, and they uh, they said there's some over there um, preaching like they were asking Yeshua, should we stop them because they're not like saying exactly what you're saying, and he said no, just leave them be. So I'm thinking that scripture came to my mind. I can't remember where it's at in the King James version, but when I just read this part that Yeshua knew that they would serve a good purpose in the end. Yeah, because even though the divine feminine and the vegetarianism is not included in what people call themselves Christians today, um, they still know about Yeshua. They still know some of his teachings, and as soon as they may be ready for this higher level of the divine feminine, accepting that there's just like there's a masculine, there's a feminine, and she's equal, and the woman is equal. People should be ready to accept that now, all this time later, and also that killing of animals and eating them was invented by demonic forces so that they could manipulate our bodies. And then whatever this whole thing that happened with the birth certificate and the afterbirth and them taking it and doing whatever they're doing with it is their physical um, ritual that actually there's probably a million things they're doing with that, but just getting us to eat it, putting it into like who knows, they could just, depending on what company it is or whatever, it just could be ground up. It's just like powdered sugar, whatever, and you don't know. But whatever they're doing to keep us in taking it so that they can keep on suggesting things to us and we can keep on having all these voices in our head that we think is ours telling us what to do and what we think, we'll never be able to have be at peace. And so the vegetarianism is all about your vibratory frequency. And even in India, that's when I took a yoga class. I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna end it. One of the had no clue. I just jumped in there because I met a lady and I loved her vibration, and she said they were doing it. So I took a yoga teacher training class. So it's different. We had got the books and we started reading, and I started learning about the practice. And one of the first things that really struck me and sat with me was when the teacher said that all of the voices that we hear in our head are not ours. All the thoughts that we have are not ours, and that you had to silence the mind and relax the body and take care of the vessels so that you could still yourself and hear the still small voice. And I began to learn how to do that, and that's when I also learned that the whole reincarnation thing, and where they talk about in India, they say if you eat chicken, you're coming back as a chicken. That's like it ain't no like it's like what a big deal. Like you are what you eat. You come back. You have to come back. If you want to eat it, eat it. Nothing, and you just come back as a chicken, probably get killed and eaten, and then you get to probably try again and see if you want to live in this demonic vibration that they've invented or in the higher original uh, vi- vibration, the real human vibration that is high and it doesn't have any killing or any possession going on, a free being. So yes, and we have that choice now. So thanks for watching, guys. Um, we'll get this up there. These are the footnotes, like I said. These are good. All right. Stay tuned. Get tuned. Attuned. Vibrate high, and all that good stuff. I love you. Bye.